Welcome, guys, to Austin Zuckerman and Jackson Valente's mock draft, the combo that we are finally unleashing to all you guys, all you fans out there. Basically, we just want to get this mock draft done. And Austin, before we even start this, I do want to challenge you. I haven't even talked to you about this, but we're going to put a little alcohol bet on this. So basically,
Nice.
every pick that we get wrong tomorrow night, we're going to have to take like a 2-second chug of some claws or some fucking brews.
Done. Let's go.
All right. So
Jackson's going to be odd numbers.
Yeah, you blessed me with the number one pick. Probably the easiest pick in the draft. But I do want to spend a little bit of time on Burrow because he deserves it. And honestly, if you're the Bengals, it's come to the point where they're now just playing with the other teams who are trying to trade up to number one. They're just actually just joking around whenever a team calls in and is trying to take the number one from them. I think it's been a lock all along. It's the story to be written with, and he's a hometown kid. It makes perfect sense. He was accurate. He won a national championship. He has weapons on the outside. And if you look at the Bengals offense, they do have guys who is going to be able to benefit and help Burrow early. So I'm going to put Burrow right there. Really simple pick. You guys might as well just skip through until the second and third pick.
That's one of the most locked in number one picks in a while. Two also is a lock. Worth mentioning that the Falcons made a call to the Redskins today, trying to trade up for number two. The Falcons are trying to trade up anywhere within the top 10 to get a defensive playmaker, it seems like, or even offensive tackle, people are saying. But Redskins are going to stand pat here. Defensive lineman in football year one, so no brainer.
And we heard Dimitrov, the GM of the Falcons, months ago back at the Senior Bowl, hinting out that he wants to trade up, and he's saying he's at pick 16 for now, but that could definitely change as we get closer to draft. But something to consider here with all these trades, we're now within 24 hours between the draft actually starting, so we have to start thinking, when is the first trade going to happen? Because, this is all online. It's something new. There could be technical difficulties like we saw in the mock draft rehearsal. So, I don't know. The GM's got to figure it out real soon.
Yeah.
The Lions pick number 3. Since I don't think we should do any trades here.
Yeah, we're going to do no trades for the sake of the mock. It's going to take too much time.
It will take too much time.
But Miami's definitely a candidate to come up here for either an offensive tackle or a quarterback.
100%. And we've heard about that today. It's starting to they're starting to hint about it. And you even brought up they may keep number 5 and be able to take number 3, maybe trade back the second, the 2 and 3 in their first rounds, 18, 26.
Yeah, if they could get Wills and Tua together, I think that's their dream scenario. Both from Bama will be just easy plug in on the line and under center.
And Tua's a hell of a quarterback. We'll get into it. Like
Tua's my favorite.
Yeah, no doubt. He's still a heck of a quarterback. You just got to protect him. Lions, obviously. I'm gonna go with Okudah just for.
Yeah, that's if you stand pat. That's who they're taking.
Desmond Trufant there alone. Like, you have to lock up that other side, and especially if you're a guy like Matt Patricia, defensive-minded guy, knows where championships are won, and that's on the defensive side of the ball. If it's not Okudah, it's Simmons. If it's not Simmons, it's Brown, but it's definitely a defensive player. For the sake of it, I'm going to say Jeffrey Okudah. He can lock down half the field, and then you just have to worry about Desmond Trufant.
Yeah, and if I'm the Lions, I'm definitely interested in trading with the Dolphins, not for 5, but getting 18, 26, 39. The Lions have so many holes to fill. That could be definitely beneficial to them because who knows, one of those guys at 18, 26, 39 could end up being better than Okudah. So.
And they had a heck of a free agency offseason as well.
They're starting to fill the holes, but that would definitely be a big step. And then now the Giants at 4. So I think it's pretty locked in that they're taking a tackle at this point. And here I'm just going to go with the best tackle on the board. The most Giants player, I think, is Jedrick Wills. Wills is the best tackle in this loaded draft class. I mean, they could go Tristan Wirfs too, and with the athleticism, but I think Wills is going to be the guy who has the least doubts about him heading into draft night.
100%. Couldn't agree more. He is my offensive tackle number one. Just a player where you watch on film compared to the other guys, and he's perfect. He's picture perfect. I played center and was an offensive guy when I was growing up playing football. So I just understand when I'm watching film, the differences, the little tiny differences, and it's massive. Sure, he's not the most athletic guy, and he may not have the best frame to be like the perfect picture offensive tackle, but everything else, whatever he does with his footwork is perfect, and you could just tell that Alabama coached him to be in the NFL and take care of the left or right side. He played right tackle at Bama, but you could throw him on the left side and take care of that side for
sure.
Now, number 5 with the Dolphins. This is obviously Tua. It's a no-brainer.
The biggest Tua guys in the building right here. Don't give me any of that Justin Herbert bullshit.
And 100%. The thing that scares me now that you're picking Tua is because we're not trading up. In an ideal scenario, if they don't trade up to 3 and they don't keep 5 and they stay at 5, you have to pair whatever it is to trade back up into the top 10. We already heard the Panthers. We already heard the Cardinals considering moving out. Whatever it takes. You got your guy. You understand that he's injury prone. You got to protect him. You got to do whatever you do because you're throwing your whole entire franchise in the top 5 quarterback, and you know the potential he has when he has a good offensive line. So load up
the O-line. And he's going to be a top quarterback in the NFL. I don't think anyone doubts that.
Load up the O-line and take care of him because he could be amazing.
And 6 here is where I'm going to start the slip for Justin Herbert. I think that the Chargers go Andrew Thomas.
I like that.
Thomas, I don't – between the next 3 tackles, Thomas, Wirfs, and Becton, they're all great tackles. I don't really have a personal favorite. I think Wirfs is most athletic, but I think Thomas is a little safe of a pick here. We've seen what he could do. And I think it seems like they're okay with Tyrod being under center, at least for next season. So maybe they could go Jordan Love later. Maybe they trade back up if Herbert slips. But I think that they're going to go tackle here. I think the run on tackle starts.
Yeah, and I could definitely see Tristan Wirfs as well, just because he's also a pretty solid run blocker. But Andrew Thomas, the difference is you're getting a tackle. Wirfs, no one knows if he's actually going to work out, and this isn't being talked about enough. He has some really choppy film that was being able to get covered up because of his run blocking. He's a great run blocker, but if he can't live up to his potential as a pass blocker, you can throw him inside and play him at guard. But right now, the Chargers have to go at tackle. They just acquired Trey Turner. They have the inside locked up. Go get a tackle like Andrew Thomas. My offensive tackle number 2, actually, ahead of Wirfs, just because he's a safe pick. And you got to get Austin Eckler some room to run. And Andrew Thomas is my number 1 offensive tackle when it comes to run blocking. He's a perfect guy for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Going to number 7 with the Panthers. Matt Rule taking over as a head coach there. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator. You have a lot of options here. In an ideal scenario, you may want to trade back, but you still have Isaiah Simmons on the board. And he's a guy who even stated and announced today that there's only a certain amount of guys. You can only put 53 guys on your roster. But he claims that if you draft him, you're getting 56 guys on your roster just because he's so athletic, so dynamic. You can place him anywhere on the field. He's all over the place. And with the Panthers, they have a pretty rough defense. And I think if you throw in a guy like Simmons, he's going to change that, and he's going to help your team dramatically. And it could be a big difference maker.
Easy selection there, I think, for them. He's in Carolina already from Clemson. I think that's the perfect fit. 8 Cardinals. I could see them trading back with Derek Brown. I could see the Cardinals taking Derek Brown, but here I think they got to go Tristan Wirfs. Originally I thought receiver, and then they made that move for DeAndre Hopkins to fill that need. Wirfs, Kyler Murray was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football last year. Wirfs is the most athletic of the linemen, and with how much Kyler moves, I think he's probably tackle number 1 on the Cardinals board. I think that's a perfect fit.
I think it is a great fit, and you can't speak enough about Wirfs' athleticism. I know we've already talked about it, but Kyler's athletic as it is, so you got to get someone who can move with him, and I feel like you got like Wirfs, he'd be a perfect fit right there. If it's not Wirfs, I could really see him taking Derek Brown as well, just to clog the hole. Basically, you wouldn't have to worry about all the rushes coming in, but Wirfs would be a great pick as well. And now with the Jaguars pick, here's an area where they could go Herbert. They could go C.J. Henderson. They could take a wide receiver, or they could take Derek Brown. There's a lot of picks, and they do have a lot of needs. So, I mean, with that being said, you left me at a great position to take up one of these guys. For some reason, I don't know if they're in love with Herbert. I really don't, and I think you might as well just stick it out with Minshew or wait, maybe he falls into your second first-round pick. So I'm going to take Derek Brown here.
I think Minshew is like already developing as to where Herbert would be if they took him, and it's kind of like having 2 guys in a similar spot. Herbert's very tall and very smart, but I just don't see the appeal. He can't really throw it down the field that well. I don't know, not the biggest Herbert guy.
And Minshew already has a year in the NFL, so
and he could sling the football, so
yep, you might as well just keep him there. You lost Calais Campbell. Why not fill in Derek Brown, clog up the hole, give Josh Allen an opportunity to run on the outside freely.
Yep. And then 10, I'm not sure why this says Broncos, should say Browns. The Browns are going to go, I think, in a scenario where there's not 3 tackles already off the board, I definitely think they could look to trade down for whichever one's left, maybe at 13, 14, around there. But with 3 already off the board, I think they have no choice but to go back in. Their line is the only thing that really needs improvement. They've done a great job in free agency and everything. I think that protecting Baker's got to be the biggest thing. And Becton's the clear 4th tackle here, and then there's a big drop-off after him.
Yeah, 100%. And he has a very high ceiling if he gets coached up. New offensive staff coming in, new whole entire staff coming in, actually, for the Browns. So they have time to groom him. He's not groomed at all. His footwork is not great, but if you watch his film, he's a bully out there. He's making himself look like he's playing with a bunch of 5th graders, especially against film that we even saw against Clemson, which is going against the top of the top. I think Becton, you have time to work with him, and your quarterback's luckily still young. He's mobile if it needs to be, and you have good wide receivers, so it is a good pick. Going with the Jets, and this is my New York Jets, at pick number 11. You're now in a situation
no tackles on the board.
You're now in a situation where you have no tackles, so now you look at yourself, who's the best available on my board, and I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. He reminds me a lot of Quincy Enunwa, and he's just like a big body, but he's fast. And Enunwa was great for you, but he's been hurt. He has neck injuries, but you'll use him often. Why don't you just get a younger, better version of him where you can just throw the ball wherever downfield, at slot, wherever, and let him just take it to the end zone?
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's my wide receiver 1, definitely. I love Judy a lot, but Lamb, his speed just separates it for me. And then coming down to 12, so the Raiders, it seemed like they were definitely a lock to go receiver early on. But as it gets closer, I'm starting to think that C.J. Henderson's the pick here for them. CJ is he's closer to Okuda than people give him credit for. He's unbelievable in coverage. I think this is a very John Gruden pick here.
Yep.
Yeah, Henderson's tape speaks for itself. He's great in coverage, everything. I think they could, with this receiver class, I think the Raiders are more likely to sit and maybe take one at 18 if Jefferson's there, or later on with like Ayuk, Mims, any of those guys.
Could not agree more. And I was going to literally call you out if you took a wide receiver here because I was not going to be happy. Look, the cornerbacks are short. There's a big drop off from Henderson to.
Yeah, these are the only two.
Gladney. Yeah, it's really the only two that have the potential to be a lockdown corner. And if you're looking at the Raiders, they need to lock down some top wide receivers in their division. So I think it's a no-brainer pick. Go with the cornerback here. You're still going to get a value pick. Who knows? Maybe someone who you wanted at 12, wide receiver-wise, slips down to your second, first-round pick.
Yeah.
Number 13, with the 49ers, they could have taken C.J. Henderson. I think they would have if the Raiders pass on him. Now that he's gone, I think it's a sure pick that they take Judy.
Yeah.
Alabama. I think he's very athletic. His routes are unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And if you're Shanahan, you're drooling all over Jerry Jeudy.
He's been waiting for a guy like this for so long. He would jump out of his seat. This is definitely who he wants, I think.
No doubt. I think that's a for sure lock if Henderson's not on the board.
Yeah. And then 14, the Bucs. So this is an interesting scenario for the Bucs. They're definitely going to try to move up to look for a tackle at this point. I mean, every mock draft up until probably 2 days ago had them taking a tackle, Becton or Thomas. But with this run on tackles early, they're left here with no, like they could take Josh Jones really early. I don't think they do. I think they can move back, but I think they got to go Kinlaw here just to clog the middle. He didn't fail any of his physicals, which was the biggest concern about him. I don't know. This is kind of a pick that they're not going to want to make, but I think they just take the best player on the board.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in this situation, you may want to trade back, acquire some more picks because, Brady's getting up in age, Gronk's getting up in age. They're the face of your franchise now, but for only a couple of years. So you got to look past that.
Yeah.
And might as well groom some players and get them coached up by the best in the NFL. Now going with the Broncos, I don't see Henry Ruggs falling anywhere past here.
Yeah.
I just think he's very athletic. He's blazing fast. We saw it in the combine. The one thing that does stand out to me is the altitude in Denver. So that ball is going to carry from Drew Lock. You let him sling that ball down the field, it's going to hit Ruggs right in the sweet spot, and he'll be able to score a lot more touchdowns that way. And it really stretches the whole entire field when you get a guy like Ruggs who's extremely dynamic and can completely change your offense.
Yeah, I agree. That's an easy pick for them. It's been known that they're looking for a receiver. If they could get one of those three guys, I think they're happy with any of them. Now 16, the Falcons. I don't really see any way that the Falcons end up selecting at 16. They're clearly the most aggressive in moving up, and I don't think they want to go defense, but in this kind of situation, you can't take a corner, which is a need. You can't take a tackle. So I think they go with their best player on the board, and they need some passers. So I'd say Kayvon Chasen here. I'm not the biggest fan of Chasen, but I know he's high on a lot of boards, and he's a little raw, but with the right coaching, Dan Quinn's a good guy to do that. He could definitely become a force off the edge.
Yeah, 100%. I'm more of a fan than you are with Chasen. I think he has a very high ceiling. He's extremely athletic. He's built to be a perfect pass rusher in the NFL. He definitely flashed what he could do with LSU and in that playoff run. So, the Falcons able to get him. I mean, we're expecting a trade for sure, so he probably is still on the board. I would assume the Cowboys may make that pick, one pick later at 17, but because you did take him at 16, I'm probably going to take the best safety on the board and someone who fits well with the Cowboys, and that's McKinney. He comes from Alabama, and I think they coached him up to be a great safety in the NFL. He's able to find that ball, track it down, get some interceptions, help out the cornerbacks immensely, and really, you're going to be able to double team these top wide receivers in the NFC East and in the NFC overall. So I think getting a safety, I don't care really who it is. My pick right now is McKinney because he's my safety number one. But if you want to go in a different route, that's fine as well.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot for the Cowboys because I think they're looking for C.J. Henderson, Chason, or one of the receivers to fall.
Yeah.
And with none of them there, they're kind of between, I guess you could say McKinney or maybe even Justin Jefferson if they want to add offense. But yeah, this is definitely a good pick for the Cowboys. They need some help in the secondary. Also, I just got a text. Daniel Jeremiah's final mock just came out, and he has the Niners taking Justin Jefferson at 13.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't be shocked to see, but that'd be pretty awesome.
No doubt about it. I mean, some people have him as the number 2 behind Lamb that I've seen. And honestly, yeah. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys take him just because they really have an offensive coaching staff now who may want to look that way. But obviously, we've been talking about safety as a big need. It doesn't seem like the Jets are trading Jamal. I'm sorry. Zach.
It doesn't. But another thing I was going to say is someone I didn't really think of this till recently. The fact that the Cowboys are moving to a 4-3 defense with 3 linebackers, I wouldn't be shocked to see just best player on the board, Kenneth Murray, here for them.
Okay.
But McKinney definitely makes more sense from a personnel standpoint. But you never know with the Jones brothers.
And if you want a Jamal-type player, then take Winfield. Take Winfield Jr. He has the potential to be like a Jamal Adams who can run.
I'm a big Winfield fan. I'm honestly surprised he's not in the first round in the majority of mocks. I guess we'll see tomorrow night, but definitely a big Winfield guy. Now, 18, this is a tough one for the Dolphins. They can go so many different ways here. Like, they have needs, but at the same time, they filled a lot of those needs this offseason. I've been trying to wait for them to take Josh Jones till 26, their next pick. But with these tackles coming off so early and the fact that they have Tua and no tackles in this draft, I think they got to be safe and take him here. I don't love Josh Jones. He's definitely not on the level of those other 4 guys, but he will, in my opinion, be a serviceable starter for years to come. Nothing like special, but he'll be able to start on any offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the pick. Personally, if I was picking at 18, I'd probably take Justin Jefferson and combine Tua with Justin Jefferson, who's very similar to Judy because they're both great route runners and can stretch the field. And then probably at 26, I'd look for an offensive tackle.
I like that.
If you're nervous about Josh Jones, which I think they may be getting picked in between those picks, then you have to start looking at taking at 18, which is pretty much what you're thinking right now. So you can't complain trying to protect Tua.
Yeah.
Raiders at 19. First, we picked C.J. Henderson, so now you let me take Jefferson.
Yeah.
Here at 19.
This is the dream for the Raiders right here.
If you get C.J. Henderson, Justin Jefferson, you're set.
That's way better. That's miles better than Judy and the next best corner. You can't even compare the two.
And that's exactly what we were talking about. We were saying, why are you going to pick Judy there when you can get someone very similar to Judy and Jefferson and be able to get C.J. Henderson? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. I think Mayock's smart like that.
That's C.J. Henderson's a very Raiders pick at 12.
Yeah, definitely. Just the one negative I'd say is Mayock's and Gruden, they're very obsessed with leaders and having that Raider mindset and culture that they're trying to develop, which we saw in their last draft. when you look at Henderson and Jefferson, you're not getting those types of guys. So I don't know if that's going to impact their decision. They go and look somewhere else and try to get that Raider mentality back and get a bunch of dogs in that way.
Yeah. I think Jefferson's another pick to bring excitement to Vegas. So
Definitely.
And then here the Jaguars at 20. I'm gonna stop the fall for Justin Herbert.
Yep.
Whether it's them here or a team moving up to this spot or around it, I think this has got to be where the fall ends. There's going to be a couple teams that, of course, do like Herbert, and while that I believe he's going to fall. I think right around here is when it stops. If the Patriots could get their hands on him, I think they'd be interested. Like, how can you not be? The Jaguars come away with Herbert and Derek Brown here. That's a hell of a first round if Herbert could develop.
100%. And, the mock drafts that I've been doing, I've had Herbert falling here at 20. Do I realistically see it happening? Probably not, because like we said, we see a team like the Patriots trading up and going to go ahead and snag him, or even another team, even the Raiders potentially, they could trade up. Who knows? So I don't think he goes all the way to 20th. I know I've said I'm not the biggest fan of Herbert, but I know GMs are, and I know GMs are going to be smart enough to say, look, we need a quarterback. Let's not hesitate and let's trade up.
For
Eagles at 21. It's a little bit of a reach for me, but in this situation, I could either take Kenneth Murray, who they're in desperate need for a middle linebacker and a leader, or Denzel Mims. I would say, in my opinion, I'm going to take Murray here just because he's getting raved about in the pre-draft processes. Like, whenever he's meeting with teams, the same exact answers coming around. He's the complete player. He's a hell of a linebacker, and his personality is off the charts. He's a leader. He could easily come into Philly, take over that defense, and just spark that Philly D that really is needed.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's one of my guys that I say from the beginning, if the media told you he was going top 5, you wouldn't flinch for a second. The tape is he hits so hard. He's all over the field. He's a leader on D. Like you said, teams love him in meetings. Nothing but positive reviews. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Murray going earlier. I think Murray's a great fit with the Browns if they decide to slide back a few spots and lose out on a tackle. I think he would be great on that defense. I think the Eagles make this pick here too with Jefferson off the board.
Yep.
And then here at 22, the Vikings, we said from the beginning that their picks at 22 and 25 are some of the more confusing because their biggest needs, I would say, are wide receiver and a cornerback, and the drop-off has already happened from the elite at those spots. After C.J. Henderson, the corners get a little weaker, and then after Jefferson, the receivers definitely get weaker. Here, if they go corner, a name I've seen a lot for them is Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
It's a little early, but at this point, they're going to have to reach if they wanted, unless they're going to take the best player on their board, which I don't think they're going to do because they're pretty close to winning. And if they patch up some holes, they could be right there.
100% agree. And that'd be a great pickup at cornerback. They need a cornerback and they need a wide receiver, whether you pick it at 22 or 25. That's what they're in desperate need for. They lost Stephon Diggs. So they could take wide receiver there, but why do that when you could probably get the same wide receiver here at 25 because 23 and 24 aren't looking that route. With the Patriots, it's a pretty tough decision because they're completely rebranding themselves. So it's harder than people think when you're looking at 23 and you're looking at the Pats because you have Jordan Love on the board. In all realistic scenario, I'd probably say they trade up if Herbert's sitting there, probably around pick 18, 19, or 20. But because he's not there, you're now looking for a different area, and maybe wide receiver is a new need for your future quarterback in Stidham. I don't really know. Or you protect Stidham which may be the route they go. And I know we're talking very, very early, but for Bill Belichick, he finds talent that no one else sees in specific players.
Yep.
I can't stress that enough. And some guy that some people are in love with is Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
And I just think he's that type of Patriot player he was great in high school. He came into Georgia. He's still young because he was a redshirt sophomore. He can come in and fill that offensive tackle position, and I think Belichick would be down to really coach him into a premium offensive tackle. So I think Wilson needs to be there, and he's going to be a project, no doubt. And he's a very early pick at 23, but I'm going to say that's the right move if I'm the Pats.
I haven't thought about that much, but it does make a lot of sense to me, especially just because no one jumps out at 23, really. We're like, wow, he's still on the board. So I think that would make sense, and it definitely wouldn't surprise me. 24, the Saints need a linebacker. Patrick Queen's on the board. I think that's a no-brainer for them.
Hometown kid.
Yeah, Queen from Louisiana, LSU. That's going to be a no-brainer for the Saints if he's there, in my opinion. They love Kenneth Murray. I don't think he'll be there.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's a great pick. I think they still have Kiko Alonso, I'm pretty sure, but he's been hurt throughout the years. So I don't really know his deal. Demario Davis is a leader. He's someone that can bring Patrick Queen underneath him and completely coach him up into a premium defensive middle linebacker. It's a no-brainer for me. Davis is going to be a leader for him, and Davis will be the focal point until he's getting up in age. So once he goes away, Queen's going to take over that job and be perfect.
Yeah.
I kind of read it like that's just a dream spot right there. It's Saints and Queen. I think it's no-brainer. 25 with the Vikings, and they just picked Jalen Johnson. Now looking at wide receiver, I think you go Denzel Mims.
I agree with that.
He's a great wide receiver. He flashed a lot of things at Baylor. And the one thing impressing me is his speed downfield, his ability to, he'd be an outside wide receiver for sure. And I think he's going to be your best option to replace Stephon Diggs in that offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mims is I think one of his biggest flaws that teams are worried about was him dropping balls. And something that came out recently is that he played a full season with a broken hand. That wasn't discussed during the season, and it's definitely changing a team's opinions on him. He's a big body on the outside, definitely a good target across from Thielen. 26 for the Dolphins, so we went with Jones and Tua, so they could go with a weapon here at receiver. They could go defense with pass rusher Gross Matos. And they could also – someone I'd like to see them pick here. I don't think they will, so I'm not going to put it. But I would like Winfield. They need a safety. Yep. McKinney's off the board. Winfield's like a very athletic guy in the secondary. But I'm going to shake things up here. I think they go Jalen Reagor.
Okay.
He's great in the slot. Just lightning fast. I could see them trying to get to a check down target, over the middle kind of guy, speedster. Just load on the offense in the first round here. Tua, Reagor, and Josh Jones. I know there are some needs on defense, but Flores always will figure it out. He did a great job in free agency, getting some Patriots back, doing what he does best. I think they load up the offense in the first round. Yeah. They have more picks to come.
Yeah, 100%. They have so many more picks to come, and you could look wide receiver in the second round just because they have two or three picks in the second round. But
yeah, for sure.
Reagor is someone who, if you fall in love with because of his speed, you have to pick him there. And if you're, like we said before, if you're investing in Tua, you need to get him a guy who's going to be able to be open whenever you need him. Like we said, in the slot, he could be a perfect player in that situation. If the offensive line's not perfect, which it isn't for the Dolphins, you need a guy who's going to be open when needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Going to the 27 with the Seahawks, I'd say their number one need is in pass rusher. But that's just because Jadeveon Clowney hasn't re-signed. And I eventually believe that Clowney's going to go back to Seattle. They're eventually going to work it out. Clowney's the type of guy who loves football, just wants to play whenever. I can't really see him holding out throughout a whole entire year this young. So even if it's a one-year deal, he's going to go. I believe he's going to go back to Seattle. So I don't think they're going to waste their time on that. What I do think is a huge concern for Seattle, and we saw in the playoffs and leading up to the playoffs, is their offensive line. It's atrocious. It's one of the worst O-lines in football right now. And if you have Russell Wilson, why are you going to give him only like 1 second to throw that ball away? So you got to go online. I'm going to look at a center just because their current center is also probably the worst center in the NFL, starting-wise.
Yeah.
So you have Lloyd Cushenberry or you have Cesar Ruiz, and it's been a toss-up for me. I really can't figure out who my number one center is. I think Cushenberry is a little bit more athletic, but Ruiz also has his own great, running, blocking, and everything. I really don't know here. If I'm dumb in Seattle, I'm probably going to go Ruiz over Cushenberry, and it's a little wild why I'm choosing that, but it's because Ruiz played in the North in Michigan and understands cold weather. I think that's the only different factor. In Seattle, you're playing in cold weather when it comes late into the season, so why not you take up a guy who played in the North?
I agree with Ruiz there. I think it's just the safer option out of the two. Ruiz is a guy who, at the center position. Center position is one of the easiest to like fill. You just draft a guy and he'll be there for the next 10 years. I think Ruiz is one of those kind of guys. He'll be right in there in the middle of the line. I think it's a good pick for them. Ravens, this is my favorite fit pick of the draft. They need a linebacker. Zach Bond out of Wisconsin fits the whole Ravens mold right now. He's a leader. He hits hard. He's not the most athletic guy in terms of like his tape's going to jump out of you, but he's just all over the field. He knows where to be at all times. He's smart. He's well coached, and he fits into the winning culture in Baltimore.
No doubt about it. It is a little early for Zach Bond, but as everyone says, if you fall in love with someone and if he's a fit and he's a need, it's a no-brainer, especially like the Ravens who don't have a lot of holes to fill. You can spend your time with Zach Bond, coach him up a little bit into the player that you want him to become.
Yeah, I could see the Ravens getting aggressive and trying to look to move up for a receiver just to get some more weapons for Lamar. But I think if they stand at 28, they're going to be looking for a linebacker, and it's likely that the best linebacker on the board here will be Bond if Murray and Queen are gone.
No doubt. And in the second round, you're looking for – like the Ravens are looking for more of a red zone target at wide receiver as well. They don't need a speedster. They have Hollywood Brown. They don't need a slot.
Yeah, they would be looking for more like a Denzel Mims. If he falls here, I could see them pulling the trigger. But
in the second round, I even see him looking at Pittman or Chase Claypool just because they're a bigger guy.
Yeah, I think those are some good fits.
When Lamar was in the red zone, they kind of relied on running the ball often. So
yeah, for sure.
You can't always look at Andrews because he's going to be covered up now. So you got to get a big target so you can throw it up there in the back of the end zone. Going to 29 with the Titans. They lost Jack Conklin, so for me, they're looking at offensive tackle. They could take Austin Jackson or they could take Ezra Cleveland. For me, I think they're taking Jackson. I just think he's more athletic, and he comes out of USC where he is going to be a development for sure. He's going to be a project. I think besides those 4 top offensive tackles, you're looking at project players at offensive tackles, but they do have high upside. And Jackson's one of those players that's extremely athletic where you can throw him in and he's going to help with Tannehill.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right pick there. Definitely. 30 for the Packers. I think they were just praying that one of the top 6 receivers was going to fall down, which in this case one does, and that's Brandon Ayuk. And I think that might be one of their favorite guys, honestly, in this class. He gets down the field, opens some things up. Rodgers, I could already see him hitting Ayuk on some Hail Marys late. He's a good player. He definitely has a very high ceiling. There's also the chance that he comes in and definitely needs some help. But I do like this fit at 30.
Yeah, I like it too. I was pairing Ayuk with the Packers. You know, there's someone who also is looking for a red zone target. They could fall in love with like a Chase Claypool or a Michael Pittman, decide to go with a guy who's –
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Pittman. I could see the Colts looking at Pittman early round 2 with those 2 picks. Pittman's going to be a good player.
I think he will be as well. So it really depends what they're feeling. But I think you nailed it on the spot with the wide receiver. You definitely got to help Rodgers out and get some players open. Going to 31 with the 49ers, they initially took Jerry Jeudy at 13. So now going to 31, they're in desperate need for a cornerback. And Christian Fulton is still on the board. And I think he's a cornerback that I'm pretty high on. There's definitely a gap between him and C.J. Henderson and Jalen Johnson, but I still think he has a high upside. He comes from Clemson, so he really understands how to play in those big games because he's been in national championships multiple times in his career at Clemson. 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. They're going to be in the playoffs. You need a guy who you can rely on who's not afraid of the spotlight, and I think Fulton's going to be that great player on the outside for you.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that pick. And then at 32, I think the Chiefs are also looking at corner. There's a lot of options here. After, I think, Jalen Johnson and probably Fulton too, there's a lot of similar guys. You have Noah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Noah I from Auburn.
Yeah.
I think he's more of a mid-second rounder. But then you have Gladney, who I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
And then A.J. Terrell, who, while Terrell fans aren't huge on Terrell, including myself, but it seems like he will be going in the first round, according to media, that he's one of the guys that they say is going to be picked higher than people realize. So I'm going to go with Terrell here. But I know that the Chiefs love speed, and I know that they've met with Gladney virtually, and I could see them going Gladney. At the same time, I do think Terrell will go first round, so I'm gonna put Terrell in here at 32.
And just to clarify something, I said Fulton played at Clemson. He played at LSU. Just mixed up the national championship teams, especially Terrell, who comes from Clemson. But they're both national championship players, and you want to talk Chiefs and 49ers. They were both in the Super Bowl. That's why they're picking 31 and 32. They're going to be in the playoffs next year. Those are 2 players who had the big-time spotlight on them and understand what their job is when it comes to playing in a big-time game. So those 2 picks do make sense for those teams, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, Terrell is a guy who I've seen his name floated at 17 to the Cowboys by a lot of the Cowboys writers. I wouldn't be happy with it, but I also wouldn't be surprised. That's a very them pick just because he's from Clemson. You know you're getting a well-coached guy who knows how to play football and knows the cornerback position pretty well. So I think he does go in the first round somewhere. There's going to be a team that falls in love with him. I think it could be the Chiefs.
100%. And, I mean, with that's the mock draft. You can show him again.
Yeah, but I'll slide down here. First 3, you know what you're getting with no trades. Wills to 6 is where it gets shaken up a little bit with Thomas instead of Herbert, and that's when the Herbert slide starts. Simmons, no-brainer to the Panthers. Browns taking the last of the 4 tackles at 10, so forcing the Jets to take CD. Shanahan gets Jeudy at 13. Drew Lock gets Ruggs. Cowboys go McKinney. Yep. Justin Jefferson of the Raiders. That's one of my favorite picks from this. Herbert's fall ends at 20 to Jacksonville. Vikings go Jalen Johnson and then Denzel Mims. Patriots, surprising pick at 23 with Wilson. Another surprise at 26 with the Dolphins going Rieger over maybe Brandon Ayuk. But I think he fits well in the slot there. Yeah, and then you got the end that we just discussed.
It's weird because we're within 24 hours of this mock draft, but I can tell you
a lot's going to change before.
A lot's going to change, and we're going to get pretty drunk tomorrow night. Just,
things are definitely moving around every seems like every 10 minutes there's a new take on who the Dolphins are going to take or who's trading up, or really could be anyone. There's definitely going to be a lot of trades. It's going to be fun.
The amount of wild cards in this draft is ridiculous as well. We don't know what the trades are going to happen, like you said. But besides that, I mean, wild cards start at number 3 with the Lions, and from then on, a lot of teams are wild cards in this draft, and the rest of the top 10 going through the top 15. You really don't know who's going to draft who. So this is going to be the draft where jaws are going to be dropping throughout the whole entire thing. So it's going to be very interesting. And the guys that didn't get drafted, we should mention, guys like A.J. Epinesa still going to be in the board in round 2. I don't know if he will actually be, because I could even see, I thought he was the perfect pick for the Patriots all the way up to 23. And he was also someone I was considering there because he just seems like a Patriot player, like a Kyle Van Noy replacement. But I think they do have to go offensive tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the top 23 to the Pats or later on, because he's that good of a, defensive player. So
yeah, Epinesa is a very good fit with the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised if they take him, but it's just another guy who I definitely think will probably go in the first round, who just didn't really fit in here towards the end. Is Gross Matos.
Yep.
He's a great pass rusher. I could see the Dolphins going there 26. If the Seahawks aren't confident about Clowney, they could go there at 27. He could go to the Vikings at either of their picks. We went more for need, I think. And this is going to be an interesting draft, like you said. You're going to have guys going places you don't expect, especially with the not being able to meet with guys. Some teams might go safer. Some teams might say, hey, let's take a risk. You never know. I could see C.J. Henderson going as high as maybe even 7. You never really know, in times like this. Carolina is a team where I think if Isaiah Simmons is there, that's the pick for them. But they're also, we haven't heard much out of Carolina, and they could really be going anywhere.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they go Justin Jefferson, connect with that Joe Brady wide receiver.
That would be crazy.
That's a jaw dropper right there.
Yeah, that would be nuts. But the thing is, Justin Jefferson is one of those guys who we've obviously been told since this started that he is the 4th receiver, and he's probably the best 4th receiver of all time. But at the same time, if they told us he was the 1 receiver, we're not down that for a second. The guy produces you never even see, no one's ever seen. 4 touchdowns in the college football playoff doesn't happen every day. He's a special, honestly, it's hard to say once-in-a-generational player when he's the 4th receiver on the majority of boards, but he really is. This is the best receiver class I've ever seen, and I'm excited.
100%. I'm very excited for tomorrow night. We just have that connection where we wait all year for nights like this. So.
Oh yeah, no, this is the best night. This is the best night of the year. This is this is what I've been looking forward to since quarantine started, and I don't know what I'm gonna look forward to afterwards, but this is it for me.
Exciting. Thank you guys for.
Thanks for watching. For those of you who tuned in this far.
Yep. And
yeah,
what happens tomorrow?
Fun night.
Yep, for sure.
You know who I think's still in here? Ben Dixon. So shout out Dixon if you're still here.
100%.
Yeah.
Peace.